excelente, etcétera.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Fix podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and today I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steven. How's it going, man?
Howdy ho.
Hell yeah. I wish that we were doing a Western themed podcast today.
Howdy, partner.
Yeah, horror Westerns. That's a future episode for sure because they're few and far between, but there's definitely some greats out there. But now, today we're talking about our top 5 horror films from 1986. We're just visiting pretty much films that turned 40 this year and celebrating them that way, by just throwing out our top fives and, of course, some honorable mentions. And this was my pick. But before we dive into that and, why I picked it and stuff like that, which going forward, our kind of picks are going to be a little muddy because we talked about doing franchise. We kind of came to that agreement together. This one was kind of one I just threw out and we came to together as well with, I threw out a few options to you and we picked this one. So, but still, before we dive into that, I wanted to ask you, have you watched anything? I know we just recorded like a week ago. Have you watched or listened to anything really? I personally have not. I've listened to a little bit. I've read a little bit more of The Shining, and I've been kind of keeping up with. Like I watched the UFC fight Saturday night. Me and my son were hanging out because my wife was out, doing like a work dinner and stuff like that. And so we decided we were just chilling, and it was time for him to lay down for bed. And at that point, I was starting to like scroll and find something for me to put on that was like, kid friendly enough and something that was like kind of boring enough that he'd fall asleep, but I would be interested in. And I realized that the UFC fights were on. I didn't realize they were going on, and it was like Sean Strickland versus somebody, a guy nicknamed Fluffy, and then it was another fight. Like the co-main event was left with that fight. So I just put that on, and within like 2 minutes of the first round, this dude gets knocked the fuck out, and my son immediately goes, "I like this." I was like, "Same, dude." And so like he was
That's
like,
awesome.
he was super into it after that. So yeah, we watched like the last bit of the UFC fights Saturday, and then of course I watched like a lot of the highlights of the Olympics. So shout out to women's hockey,
Dude,
Alyssa
hell
Liu
yeah.
for all winning golds. I know there's been a lot of other golds too, but those are the 3 that have like stood out to me. But no, I was so stoked to see that. I literally told my wife yesterday, I was like, I gotta make sure my phone's charged when I'm recording the podcast tomorrow because I want to watch the hockey game while I'm recording. And she was like, "That's rude." I was like, "I'm not gonna like watch it," but that's because I thought it said that it was at like 8 p.m., but I think it
Oh, you
was
thought it
8
was.
p.m. their time. Yeah, so it was like
I'm
five
just
hours
watching your
ago.
eyes go back and forth, like, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what are you doing?
All of a sudden, I'm like, "Go!" He's freaking out. But no, so that was a pleasant surprise when we were like headed home from Virginia earlier, and I just happened to check to see what time it started, and I was like, "Oh shit, they already won it. Never mind." No, so other than like Olympics and like UFC, I really haven't been to watch anything new just because of time restraints and stuff like that. But have you watched anything new in the past week, or I haven't listened to anything
Um,
new?
let's see. What have I watched new? I'm trying to think if I watched anything that was horror related new. Um, Definitely been watching some Olympics. Been watching a lot of TV. I'm obsessed with the show The Pit, which is like a medical show. I don't know if you've seen it at all. Have we talked about this show at all?
No, but
It's
I've definitely like heard of it, and
Dude,
the
it's
YouTube
so
ads are
good.
there. But
It is so insanely good. I just love the way the format of it is really interesting because it's like each season is just one single day, and then every episode is 1 hour into these people's shift in the emergency department. So it follows like this specific emergency department in Pittsburgh, and and it's just like really like realistic. It's not like Grey's Anatomy where it's like, oh, this doctor's having an affair and like something really over the top. Like it's just like legitimate, like, oh man, I uh I feel for everybody that works in the actual emergency department and everything that they have to go through, especially in like a really like big metropolis area. But yeah, it's such a good show. Definitely check it out. It's stressful. And if you don't like medical violence, or medical like gore and stuff like that, then it's definitely not the show for you. But my daughter loves it, believe it or not. Like she's like, this show's fascinating. And I'm like, you like this? I would just think you think it's boring. But yeah, so watching a lot of that. Um, I've been watching, which I think it's season finale tonight, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the new Game of Thrones,
okay,
um, which that's been really cool. Another like different take, on like that whole franchise. And then other than that, because we watched Welcome to Derry, and I think I mentioned like, Penelope's been wanting to watch the other It movies. We finished the last It Chapter 2, I think this past weekend, which I might have mentioned on the show. I just don't remember if that was something I talked about or not,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah. So, and she really liked it, although she was extremely sad at the end of It Chapter 2.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
she was big bummed. But she takes any kind of like death or sad trauma in a show like really 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 she takes it hard. So she's got a good heart. Meanwhile, I'm just like, oh, what happened? Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah. I
I'm
always
such
picture
a
Maude Apatow and This Is 40. Have you ever seen that movie when
It's been a while, but yes, I know you're uh
she finally watches the finale of Lost and they find her in her room and she's just like sobbing and there's just like has her pad in front of her, but I just picture that every time. But no, I my son's been actually asking to watch It Chapter 2. I just haven't given in yet because I'm like that's long. It's a long movie. But
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is long. So,
but now
but
I get ads for all of those shows while I'm doing my rewatches of Degrassi on HBO Max, dude, because that's what I've been doing. That's why I haven't watched anything new because I've just been rewatching Degrassi, dude, getting my teen angst on, fucking watching Drake getting shot
yeah, I
and
was just say your Drake history.
watching dudes freak out about their mom's pasta sauce and stuff. But
Mhm.
nah, if you know, you know, man. That's one of the references for the Degrassi kids out there. But before people turn the podcast off, we can dive right into horror then with our
Yes.
top five horror films of 1986.
Yeah,
Uh,
also, I just want to say the way that you brought this episode up, I was hyped on it, and then you offended me because you're like said something to the effect of yeah, I can't believe these movies turned 40. And then I realized I was born in 1987. So I'm almost 40 and now I feel really old. Thank you. Thank you for that.
well, because it was either movies that turned 30 or 40, which 30
Mhm,
would be like when I was 3 years old, and this would be when I was 4 years old, and this was
mhm.
pre-me. So,
Hey, it's pre me too. I was
right?
I
Hey,
was
at
just
least it's still pre-you. It's not.
yeah, hey, yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's a good year. I will say that was a hard list of films to have to like pick a top five from because there's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you pick. I mean, I feel like when I looked at we're talking about 96, I was just like, I don't know if I could pick a top five. I was like, they're bad. I mean, I could pick a top five, but it's like they wouldn't even make my top 50, type films. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, anyways, so yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I love the 80s. It's easily my favorite, decade of horror. So yeah, it should be good.
No, yeah. No, and I wanted to do a top five of some sort, but I just didn't want to do like anything too like research heavy, you know what I mean? Because
Sure.
we only had a week between recording and then also I figured to do like a top five. Like I like celebrating anniversaries of films and stuff like that. And instead
Hmm.
of trying to like lock in all these films, like once the only anniversary that's coming up this year that I definitely want to make sure we celebrate is this November. I believe Carrie turns 50. And that's not only my favorite Stephen King movie, but at this point it might be my favorite Stephen King book. But I've only read like three of them, so we'll
Nice.
see after I finish up The Shining. I'm really enjoying that. But uh,
I've hung out with Sissy SpaceX daughter at a party in Richmond. Not
fuck yeah.
not gosh. What's her daughter's name that's in Orange County? I can't think of her name.
Uh,
Uh, it doesn't matter. Her younger daughter went to VCU in Richmond, and yeah, she was like I think she was a like fashion major or something like that. She was an art student, and I
hell yeah.
remember everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Sissy SpaceX daughter," and I was just like, "Hey, cool." So, anyways,
Hell
little
yeah.
little tidbit.
No, but so instead of like celebrating, all these films every time that an anniversary comes up, I figured we just, dive into all the ones that hit 40 this year because, that's a big milestone. That's kind of I almost went with 30 just because it was like I feel like a lot of people don't cover the 90s as heavy.
Mhm.
But like you said, there's kind of a reason for that. 96 would have been kind of hard. Like, of course, my favorite horror film came out that year, Scream. But after that, it kind of falls it's a far gap. And then even then,
Hmm.
it's I definitely could have picked a top five, but I'm with you. It wouldn't have been as fun to talk about, and it wouldn't have been as like fun to like lock in a
Sure.
top five because this one was hard to lock in, but that made it fun. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it was like Scream, which was the obvious one that I knew. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be the number one for both of us. And then Tremors,
yeah,
was like, I was like, well, I mean, I love that movie, but it's
yeah,
like
we'd have
a,
probably had the same one and two right there.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so anyways, well, yeah, I mean, do you wanna start it off with your number five from 1986?
Yeah. This one was the hardest one for me to lock in just because there was one other film that I'm like, I kind of wanted on my list so bad. And by not putting it here, I had to just keep it off the list completely. But my number five is actually my second favorite film in my favorite horror franchise, and that is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Hell yeah.
Uh, this is a fun ass film. I put it on all the time when I want to watch something a little kid for like when I want to watch Friday the 13th in front of like
Hmm.
somebody that needs to be kid friendly, mostly my kid, you know what I mean? But just
Yep.
if we're like at a family thing or because this is the one that has children in it for the first time.
Hmm.
And it was directed by McLaughlin, who's a past guest of the show. So shout out to him. He's also in the punk band The Sloss. But uh I don't know, he came in and did a great job with this. I'm bummed that he didn't get to do more. He wanted to do a Cheech and Chong versus Jason Voorhees or, you know, Good as Crystal Lake. And I
I
think he
could
could
see
have
that.
yeah, he could have killed it. I mean, this movie shows it, you know, with the tone he takes on, and you know, Tom Matthews comes on as Tommy Jarvis, and there's just so much about this film that's fun. You know what I mean? And as a somebody that loves Part Five, to have this return to the character in such a way that works, it just I don't know. I really like this film. So yeah, put this at my number five. It is like I said, it was very hard not to put another film, which I'll mention later in my honorable mentions,
Hmm.
which film that is, just in case you have it on your list. But I just could not deny this one because, like I said, this is probably my
Hmm.
most like the Friday the 13th franchise is already probably like my most rewatched franchise as
Hmm.
is. And part four, five, and six, parts four, five, and six are like ones that I look throw on pretty regularly. Like I probably watch this
Sure.
film like twice a year, so I couldn't not have it on the list. But
Oh, totally. I agree with you. This was my number four.
oh yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean this one and part four are probably my two favorites. I know which one's your favorite. But also, yeah, you're right. It's the one that you can show, like your teenagers or, younger people, because this is like one of the only ones that doesn't have nudity in it, and
You know,
I like how that's the caliber. We're like, we can't show that, but if there's any blood or, decapitation, like that's fine, you know.
the
But
kills are
yeah, this
pretty
one's,
campy in this. They're like mostly like like
oh,
the smiley
totally.
face on the fucking tree and shit during the
I mean,
paintball scene and
it's zombie Jason.
you know
Like, it's cool. The way the whole I mean, I feel like as the Jason films like progress in the franchise, like, okay, how does he come back? How does he get resurrected? And this one has like probably the one of the coolest ones in the entire franchise. I mean, like the way it's so bumbly done as a mistake and everything in the graveyard. Like that whole intro scene is so awesome. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a fun one.
yeah.
But yeah, I love this movie too. So,
No, fuck yeah.
uh,
Plus, it gave us "He's Back," "The Man Behind the Mask" by
oh
Alice
yeah,
Cooper. That song
that's
fucking
true.
slaps, dude. And it was released on August 1st, so 1986. I wrote down the exact date of all my films just for fun. But
Mhm.
which the next film on my list, I'm not going to dive into it, but coincidentally, this list works even more for February if it ends up coming out in February. It might come out the first week of March. So if you're listening, you might be listening in March, but or even later, depending on when you're listening. But my number four film came out on Valentine's Day of
Ooh.
1986, so
Ooh.
quite quite the hint there. Not that I'm sure that would be you'd have to have some knowledge there to remember that one, especially because it's kind of a deep cut as is. But what's your
Mhm.
number five? I know you said this was your number four.
My number five is Chopping Mall.
Fuck yeah,
Uh,
that's a good one.
yeah. Uh, Chopping Mall was one of those movies that I saw later, like even after college. It was like once I got to the point in my like horror exploration and I was like, okay, like I've seen all the major films or the like absolutes and I feel like Chopping Mall still was like very much a like cult classic B horror. It took a while for it to, I think, to even get like the hype that it has now. Um, and I had already seen like Night of the Comet and stuff like that. I had no clue this was a movie with like Kelly Maroney and Barbara Crampton. And I was just, always saw the cover and I was like, I don't know, it's a robot. This looks dumb, which is stupid because I loved watching freaking BattleBots on
Yeah.
TV. So that's basically what this is, except it's Battle Mall bots, and it rules so hard. Um, and one of the best exploding head scenes in horror cinema, especially of the 80s. Yeah, this movie is just stupid fun. It's a teen slasher that has hilarious mall culture and the I don't know, the robot is way more menacing than I thought it would ever be for a horror film. I thought it was going to be stupid, corny, but it's good. I mean, he slices, he dices, he explodes the heads. Um, it's sleazy. I mean, it's just a great teen slasher flick. So good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yeah. Now this one would have definitely been on my honorable mentions. I think I
Mm,
didn't notice it because I didn't write it down because I definitely,
mm,
like I said, would have been up there. But I wish they would have stuck with the original title of Killbots because I feel like that would have sold it more
mm.
for people because Chopping Mall just sounds like a slasher, but then you see the robot, it makes it very confusing, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I've definitely heard that critique before, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna say that's like an original thought, but I just definitely agree with that critique of like naming it Chopping Mall and then putting a robot there is just very confusing, especially when they don't chop shit, they shoot lasers and stuff, which is awesome, but it just doesn't fit. But no, you got horror royalty in this film with Kelly Maroney and fucking
Mhm,
Barbara Crampton, and there's just so many cool scenes, and you have also so many cameos,
mhm.
uh, including Mary Warrenoff and the guy with her. That's all. They're like the two characters from Meeting
Yeah.
Raoul. You got Garrett Graham, and then you got the legendary Dick Miller as well,
Mhm.
which is awesome. So there's just so much to love about this film, and it's one of those films, especially if you watch like as a horror fan. Like I watched it later in life for the first time, for
Mhm.
sure. I think it might have even been Joe Bob showing it. It might have been the first time I finally saw it,
Mm.
but so it might have been within, because I definitely started hearing about it throughout time, but it was one of those that I just never pulled the trigger on because again, it just sounded so silly.
Yeah.
But ended up loving it, you know what I mean? And after becoming such a horror fan, of knowing Kelly Maroney and Barbara Crampton, and then
Mhm.
Dick Miller's just one that I think everybody would recognize since
Oh
childhood. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Totally. And I love the premise of like the setup for the teenagers too. Like we're gonna party in the furniture store that we work at. Like I I don't know if kids still think about this, but like there was so many times growing up as a little kid, like what if I snuck in and like stayed the night in my favorite store ever?
yeah,
Um, or like when I was a kid, I'd go hide in like the clothing racks, while my mom would be like, because it was like, oh, this is a whole like secret fort for me to, so I don't know, there's something like super nostalgic about the idea of trying to like stay overnight in the mall, so it's just fun. Yeah.
isn't this the one where the robots are like, "Thank you, have a nice day" or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that like robotic voice they give them. It's like perfect 80s robot, so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Big coincidence. I mentioned Mary Warnoff and Garrett Graham being in
Mm,
this film, and they are in my number four film, the Valentine's Day love story. That is Terror Vision, dude. I
mhm,
fucking love Terror Vision. This movie is so fun. It's definitely, I feel like my top four films, top three are films that top other lists, and I'll even mention
mm,
what those lists are. It'd be spoilers for future episodes, but
sure.
by the time we get back around to those lists, hopefully people will forget that type of
I'm
shit.
not gonna lie. I expected TerraVision to be, knowing how much you love this movie, I kind of expected it to be like sneakily higher on your list. So I am very curious now what
Well,
what the
I will
rest is
say
saying.
I had it at number three, and the film that
Mm,
is number three is one that is probably arguably horror.
okay,
I'll explain when I get there. So if I
sure.
didn't put that one in and move it at number three, then this one would have at least been number three.
Mm,
But no, I love this film. It's fun as shit. We did a whole episode on it, so I don't want to talk too much about it. It's got a fun ass creature. Again,
mhm.
horror royalty with Garrett Graham, Mary Warrenoff, uh, Diane Franklin. You got fucking what's his name? Uncle Rico himself. Shit.
Oh, why'd you do this to me?
John
Uh,
Grease.
John
Yeah.
Grease, yes.
Yeah, from
Gosh.
Fright Night Part 2, and he's also in the Monster Squad, and
Yeah.
uh the dude's freaking awesome, and now he's famous for what, White Lotus or something like that, I think.
Hmm.
He's on one,
Yep.
yeah, I know he's on one of those big
He's
shows,
great
but
in that too. Yep.
But no, I love this film. It's like it feels punk rock mostly because of his character of OD and then the
Hmm.
daughter played by Diane Franklin. Just it's goofy as shit. It's super like sexual, but like in a like a funny way, you know,
Hmm.
with like the whole like swinger story with the parents and just everything about this film is goofy as hell, and I just absolutely love it. And uh, even down to like the Medusa character that is pretty much like a stand-in Elvira, you know, like even all that fun stuff, and then the crazy grandpa. I don't know. There's just I could go on and on about this film and all the things I love about it, but
Hmm.
I just highly recommend checking out TerrorVision. I can't wait for this film to get a true resurgence. The problem is it still hasn't
Hmm.
been put on like the forefront of like a streaming service or even a restoration. So I think if it actually got truly pushed in front of people like kind of how Taming of the T-Rex even did throughout
Hmm.
like the horror community, I think this one could get like even that, just that level of
Yeah,
popularity type thing. So
I could see that. I feel like Arrow probably did a really good like release of it at one point, but yeah.
the one I have
Um,
is a Shout Factory. They
oh,
did
Shout
it, but they
Factory,
did
yeah.
it. It was like a double disc that they did with the Video Dead, which is a fun one. But Video Dead is nowhere near as good
Hmm.
as like TerrorVision. It's just like a fun, like very like B movie, the zombie movie or whatever that where zombies come out of a TV and shit. But
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
it pairs kind of well with TerrorVision just because of the whole television aspect. But I think TerrorVision on its own, if it got just that true, I think slapping it with another film that people don't recognize just immediately make it seem like, oh,
yeah.
here's
Hmm.
two B movies. But and TerrorVision is a B movie, but it's one that like the whole cast is stellar and they all buy into the camp and the like
Hmm.
the B movie aspect of it. And so I think with them doing that, it elevates the film. And this is one of the first ones I recommend to like horror fans looking for older stuff that is a little bit more obscure, and especially like if they like horror comedies and stuff like that. So, but
Heck yeah.
we can swap back and forth since you already said your number four and we talked about it. Unless you have any more comments about it, you can move to your number three, and then I'll just go
Okay.
after you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that works perfect. Yeah, so yeah, I don't really think I have anything else really to add to Jason Lives. But yeah, my number three um is Stuart Gordon's From Beyond.
Fuck yeah.
Uh and yeah, that's a film that I saw again a little bit later. Um I think it was like when I saw Reanimator and I was just like, this movie's perfect. I want to know anything that is like this, and then go down the list of films like that, and it was kind of like entering, I guess, my Lovecraftian phase of film discovery, and then From Beyond, and I was just like, oh, this movie's. I wouldn't say it's better, because it's less fun than maybe Reanimator, but I mean, as far as like all the cool colors and like all the slime and the goo and the practical effects, and then also just Barbara Crampton again. There's a trend on my list. She's just a babe. Um, and yeah, you got Ken Foree, um, Jeffrey Combs. Yeah, it's a cool sci-fi horror flick that's weird and techy um and honestly, the storyline itself, like I feel like you can't really like dive too hard into like whatever the lore is, but um, From Beyond makes me think of like everything that I like about like a Cronenberg film where it gets weird with like the little like antennas that are growing out, like so it gets like more it gets like sleazier and like more sensual, than like even Reanimator does. Reanimator is just fully campy, I feel like, whereas this one's like on a different level that kind of like feels a little more risque in a way. But yeah, From Beyond's just super fun. Um, uh, and yeah, one of those like Lovecraftian films that I would say if anybody's like kind of like dipped their toes in, like that's what they should watch next for sure. So,
Hell yeah. Now this one's high up on my honorable mentions list, but it didn't make my top five. But
hmm,
I really enjoyed this as well. It's kind of how I found it too. I was a big fan of Reanimator and eventually started moving through Stuart Gordon's other stuff. And this was actually one of my later ones. I think I watched Castle Freak, Dolls. I think I watched like all those
hmm,
first. And
dang.
but of course this one's probably my second favorite too, Reanimator, which Reanimator is like one of my favorite horror films of all time. So I can't wait to cover that one day. But no,
Hmm,
I really love From Beyond. One thing I think that's underrated about it is what you mentioned, with Ken Foree being
hmm,
like seeing him come into a realm like this, because a horror staple as well, but
Sure.
he usually plays like he doesn't really play in the sci-fi horror realm much, at least not films that I've not in the films that I've seen him in. So I know him more for like Dawn of the Dead, and then
Hmm.
uh shit, I can't even think of much outside of Dawn of the Dead because I just think about him as the dad and all that, or Keenan and Kel. So uh
Wait, shut up. He was the dad in Keenan. What? Why?
he
This memory is blocked from my brain. I don't remember this.
yeah, he's Keenan's dad, I believe. Let me double check that, but he
What? That's amazing. I feel dumb not remembering that.
dude, he
But
throws glasses on. It's like Clark Kent, dude. People
yeah,
forget.
yeah.
But no,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
but no, I love this film. I'm a big Barbara Crampton fan as well. Yeah, Roger Rockman. He's Keenan's, or is it Rockman? Yeah, I don't know. It's cut off because of the thing, but yeah, he's
Sure.
plays Keenan's dad in the show. But
Sick.
no, and I always forget that too. But that also just shows how towering of a person he is. Because if you watch
Mm.
that show, he towers over Keenan and Kel, and both of them
Oh
aren't
yeah.
short people either. So, because if you watch Keenan on SNL, he's probably like t one of the tallest people there. So,
It's true.
no, it's wild. And I'm not saying that he's like super tall, but just in comparison to like other stars and stuff. But that's beyond the point. We can do an episode about Keenan and Kel later. But
Mhm.
hey, they have that horror movie coming up. Maybe we can actually do one. I don't know if you saw that, but they got a Keenan and Kel horror comedy coming up that they're saying
What?
is very like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, but with Keenan
Okay.
and Kel and stuff. So no, I'm
Just give
excited.
me a Good Burger horror film.
Well, they did do a Keenan and Kel like Halloween special or like episode back in the day that was really good. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
it's anywhere streaming. We might have to find it one
I
Halloween.
feel like I probably remember that. Yeah.
But back to From Beyond, now I really enjoy everything about this, and I agree. I feel like this film feels like it could be written by David Cronenberg and then directed by Stuart
Yeah.
Gordon because everything feels Cronenbergish from the extra like limbs and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, it's like the most body horror of like a Lovecraftian story, right?
you know,
Or so.
no, and I love the way it kicks right off with like a big event and then like immediately keeps
Mm.
going. Like it never really slows down much. You know what I mean? So no, it's a very fun film and definitely deserving of a top five spot for
It's
sure.
very sweaty.
Yeah, nice and gooey, almost as
Yep.
gooey as Society. But um,
Hmm.
when did Society come out? That was in 1986, right? Because that would have been on my top five. I don't think it was, but
Yeah, that was
I think it was 87,
yeah, I was gonna say maybe 87 or 88.
89.
Uh 89.
Yeah,
Maybe 87, 88, or 89.
yeah, we made it there eventually. But hell yeah. But any more comments on this one before I jump into my number three?
Nope, nope, yeah. What's your three?
This is one that I even purposely left off my needle drops list because I said it
Mm,
wasn't horror. Um, But I was like, I can't leave. I was like, it's 1986. This is one of my favorite films of the year, period. I mean, all my top three are favorite films of the year.
mm,
Uh, this is my favorite David Lynch film. It is Blue Velvet. It was
mm,
released in September 19th of 1986, and I absolutely love this film. Dennis Hopper is amazing. This is my favorite performance from Kyle MacLachlan, even over Agent Cooper. Because as much as I like
mm.
Agent Cooper, I love like the naive young Kyle MacLachlan in this film.
Yep.
Everything about this film, like the way that he portrays like Americana and stuff like that, and like just the intro with the roses and the fence, and then the contrast of that, with the cut off ear in the middle of all that, and
Hmm.
I just love the mystery. And this film, the reason I call it horror is because it is more unsettling than pretty much every film on my list.
Mm.
If I
It's
would have
true.
put the other film that I had at number five, like close to my number five up there, that might have beat this one out. So slight him for that. Uh, but this film just from everything, the whole story with uh, Dennis Hopper and the girl, and him like having her kid and like husband and stuff hostage, which I think he just has her kid. I think he like killed her husband. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while
Yeah.
since. This is one of the few places that I actually have visited some of the locations too. We went to
Oh, that's
Wilmington.
cool.
We actually went for another event because the guy that does the Myers House does like
Hmm.
on-set cinema, and we won tickets to go see I Know What You Did Last Summer at the Mizzou Theater. So we got to watch it where like the beauty pageant scene was shot. So we got to
Hmm.
like sit where like the pretty much like where you'd watch Sarah Michelle Gellar like walk out in that film
Hmm.
during the beauty pageant. It was like we were in the audience, so it was pretty cool to watch. Like because like the walls were still the same and everything, so it was really cool. But while we were
Hmm.
there, uh, it was right after Scream 5 came out, and some of those locations were in town. And then, of
Sure.
course, Blue Velvet is widely known there. So I actually got to have lunch with Jeff Goodwin, he created the ear from Blue Velvet, and
Oh,
he
no
still
way.
has it and stuff like that. And he came and had lunch with us. And do I have? No, I used to have I think it's over. I think I just stuck it in my wall over there actually, but I have like a
Mhm.
pin of the ear, you know what I
Oh,
mean? Just like a
sick.
little like shirt pin, but he gave us like a couple of those and stuff. But he's an awesome guy. He was on the show in the past, but he worked on Scream 5 and Blue Velvet and a couple others, a Black Phone, I think.
Mm.
So he's worked on some really good stuff, but he was a fun guy to chat with. And but so we got to have lunch with him and talk about Blue Velvet, and he
Mm.
has nothing but great things to say about, David Lynch and Dennis Hopper and all that stuff. And so no, I just everything about this film is great. I can't talk too much about it without just kind of going through the story,
Mm.
but everything with the like mystery and like the whole way it all plays out, it's very violent and very sexual, and I don't know, everything about this film is great. Brad Dourif shows up. The Roy Orbison in Dreams performance is fucking spectacular. Uh,
Mm.
he said that was his favorite makeup that he did, was the makeup he did on that character, was the guy,
Oh,
the guy
cool.
that sings, because he's got like that like pale
Hmm.
face and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so no, I just love this film. So, and I just want to, last thing I want to say is, Heineken, fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon,
I was
dude.
just gonna say it's Pabst Blue Ribbon's most shining moment ever in a
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
No, I love this movie so much, dude. I could watch it like tonight if it wasn't gonna like make my kid have nightmares. But
Oh, David Lynch, you and your disturbing cinemas. That's not even like outright like in your face disturbing. It's just like, man, this is unsettling. But yeah, yeah, he's so good at that. Um, yeah, and I remember the first time I saw this movie, yeah, just feeling dirty.
yeah,
Like, oh man, this is uncomfortable. But yeah, does such a good job. Kyle MacLachlan is so good in it too. Um, this is one of the later David Lynch films that I saw, and I don't know if I've really ever like rewatched his films a lot. So now I need to give this one a rewatch because I think I've only seen it once.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one for sure. So
No,
nice.
I know this is like one of his most like accessible films. At least a lot of people say this, and probably like Wild at Heart. But
Sure.
I still love all of his films from Eraserhead to Mulholland Drive. Like I love all the weird, and I love Twin Peaks and stuff. But this is still my favorite, and this is the one I probably have rewatched the most. Like I haven't
Hmm.
rewatched many of those. Like I think the only other one I've seen more than I probably watched Twin Peaks, like rewatched Twin Peaks
Hmm.
more times than I've rewatched other shows, other movies and stuff that he's done.
Sure.
Saying shows like I'm an old man. Well, I watched the show, but
Mm.
no, I love this film, so I had to put it in. It was one of those, like I said, I'll mention what other like horror film would have been, in my top five if it wasn't for this one, but.
Okay.
Uh, no, I love this film. Favorite David Lynch, and number three on the year of 1986. But
Hell yeah. Cool. Do you want to get into your number two? Do you want me to give my number two?
yeah, go ahead and do your number two. You're
Um,
gonna drop that deuce.
I was gonna make a poo-poo joke as well. My number two, which is certainly not a number two of a film, is Night of the Creeps.
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, is this your number two by any chance?
No, it's actually not on my list. I love this film, but
What?
I'm not
Oh
gonna lie.
man.
I'm not gonna lie. I was so late to this film. I didn't even see it until you guys put the shirts out. Like that was the first time
Oh,
I'd see.
really?
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved it, but like I already knew
Yeah,
Tom Atkins from Halloween 3, but it was one of those things I just never thought to seek out like his other films and stuff. And then
sure.
seeing this one is when I was like, no, I need to see all the Tom Atkins. But there's not much after that. But other than Trick, which sucked from a few years ago, I guess maybe. No, I'm just kidding. He's in The Fog, which is like one of my favorite John Carpenter ones
Yeah,
too. But
yeah.
no, so no, I just never really like. It was one that I just never heard of growing up or
Sure.
nothing. So yeah, number two.
Again, I feel like you can look at my list that I've dropped. Like, clearly, I love campy, fun 80s horror films, and it kind of resonates from my selections. Also, another horror sci-fi kind of crossover. Um, yeah, I mean, this movie is 80s cheese to the max. The amount of like absurd one-liners that Tom Atkins drops is is almost like annoying. It's
Yeah.
like where you're like, come on, like how many more of these do you need? Um, the premise of the movie of like alien space slugs like getting in the heads of frat boys, like misogynistic frat boys that are, attacking their, sorority girl prom dates, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just such a dumb 80s flick. But it's great. And also exploding heads and cool practical effects. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what even really has to be like said more about this film. It's just uh to me it's the same kind of movie that Chopping Mall is, but the characters are more stronger in my opinion. And maybe it's just Tom Atkins just steals the show as he does. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's one of those movies too that I feel like is a perfect 80s horror film for anybody that's like, yeah, I'm like, I watched The Thing. I watched like they watched like what they know to check out for 80s. And then this is like the one that I'm like, oh, if you haven't heard of Night of the Creeps, uh go watch this movie. You'll have a blast. Go, eat a pizza and hang out with your buddies and you'll just love this movie. So yeah,
No,
that is my number two.
I agree. If I had seen this one more, it might be higher up on my list. I've probably watched it like twice, over the years, since then.
Mhm.
And I even own it. Like I bought it on Blu-ray and everything. And there's a lot of times where people take all their favorite things and it feels like they throw them in a blender. And sometimes they come
Sure.
out feeling like a delicious smoothie, and sometimes they feel like a Fear Factory challenge.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep. I
and
gotcha.
this is a delicious smoothie, in my opinion. You have everything. You have,
Mhm.
they even throw a little slasher in it, with the like axe murder at the beginning. You
Yep.
got the whole sci-fi aspect with the slugs. You got a romantic, story happen, but you also got the friendship story happening. And then you also have the cop thing happening.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's just so much to it and there's so many layers. And it's like, this is Fred Decker and Shane Black, or is this just Fred Decker?
Um, I don't know if it's both of them. I'm trying to think.
Fred
It is
Decker.
directed by Fred Decker.
Oh, it's just all Fred Decker. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is written and directed by Fred Decker, who's been, nothing but great. He had,
Mhm.
his hand in he did the Monster Squad. He's
Yeah.
done so many other good things. So no, I love this film. It was obvious that this is a nod to everything he grew up loving, and he did a great job of paying nod and throwing all these things at the film without ever
Mhm.
feeling clustered or over, chock full
Yeah.
of shit. It flows so well and it's so fun and it kicks right off and goes right
Oh,
into it, which
totally.
a
It's
horror
it's such a
film should.
self-aware film for sure, It's yeah, it's cool. Um, heck
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Well, sweet. What's your number two, my friend?
Now, my number two is I will fight to the death if somebody says this film is not horror. It's literally in the fucking name. It is my favorite musical of all time.
Mm.
December 19th, we got Little Shop of Horrors. I fucking love Little Shop of Horrors. I grew up on this film. Like literally when I say favorite musical, like I listen to the soundtrack all the time.
Mhm.
Everything about this film is great. Like the whole Audrey 2 is one of the best puppets ever made. Frank Oz just absolutely like killed it with everything. Like it's so simple and like everything that like the way that it plays out almost feels
Mhm.
so much like a play, with it being so simple and playing
Yeah.
out in, like one storefront. There's kind of you get the street and then a few like the dentist's office, and that's pretty much it. And I don't know, just everybody was cast perfectly in this film, from Rick Moranis to Steve Martin to even just a
Mhm.
fucking cameo by Bill Murray. But no, I love every aspect of this film from start to finish. I even love the alternate ending where the plants win. If you
Mhm.
haven't seen that, I highly recommend going and checking that out. But no, Little Shop of Horrors is just a blast. It's got heart, it's got comedy, it's got revenge, it's got, and it's got karma coming back around, and like kind of like a
Mhm.
lot of the stuff that you look for in like Creep Show or
Sure.
Tales from the Crypt, with the bad guy getting his comeuppance via the whatever the other evil is of the film. So now I just love the whole Feed Me Seymour aspect,
Mhm.
the love between the two of them, the way that he like uses Audrey too, but then also like realizes, just everything about it. There's just so much of a character arc in this film, and it works perfectly. So now I literally could just glow about this film for hours, and I could watch it over and over again. So, uh,
Was it Lionel Richie that does the voice of the plant? Or am I making that up?
It might be. Let me look that up. I also want to look up the one that plays Audrey because she's
Hmm.
amazing, and I feel like a dick not knowing her name to shout her out. But let me look.
Isn't that it's isn't it Danny DeVito's wife? Or am I making am I
No, it's Ellen Green that plays Audrey, and she is fucking amazing, dude. Plus, I want to shout out Tisha Campbell and Tichina Arnold that play that like they're two of the three female singers that show up the whole time, and they're from Martin. I
Mhm.
love them, but of course, John Candy has a part. No, it's Levi Stubbs plays
Oh
Audrey too.
yeah.
So
I'm thinking it's so funny.
he sounds like Little Richard.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. And then with Ellen Green, I can hear her voice. I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid.
Yeah,
It was honestly it was one of the like kind of intro to horror films for me for sure because it was one my mom was like, my mom's a huge musical fan. And would listen to it all the time. And she was like, "Oh yeah, you can watch this movie." Um, and I also just loved Rick Moranis, like from freaking uh, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and stuff like that. And
yeah.
yeah, but no, it's funny. Ellen Green, I can hear her voice in the movie, but instantly my brain wants to put it on uh the wife in Matilda but they're way different actresses.
Danny
you
DeVito's wife was actually in Rhea Perlman. It was Rhea
Rhea
Perlman. Yeah.
okay,
She
gotcha,
was in a
gotcha.
recent episode of It's Always Sunny, actually, in the last season. It was pretty
Oh
cool.
nice.
Yeah, they had her come on for an episode, so I was like, hell yeah, finally. But and it was an episode he was looking for love. It was pretty
Mm,
cool. So, but no,
nice.
hell yeah. No, this is my number two. I love this movie. Like I said, and people also forget that Audrey too is an alien. You know what I mean? It came from outer
Mm,
space technically, so that's another aspect. Sci-fi. It's got a little gore in it from all the eating of people, and the whole
mm,
dentist part's fucking scary. You know what I
mm.
mean? So. Yeah, there's so many levels to the horror part of it, but it's all done in just such a fun way that I
It's
think a lot
probably
of
one of
people
the
would.
first films too that I learned about like abusing substances too with the whole nitrous thing. And I was just like,
Yeah.
explain to me this. I was like, what is this?
Mhm.
And and then as I got older and had to get like cavities, I was like, oh, this is the sweet juice.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, this is a movie that I need to show Penelope. Because she loves musicals and stuff like that. I'm not the biggest into it. But I'm like, all right, if you guys make me watch this other crap, then you got to watch this.
yeah.
I feel like she'd enjoy it. It's definitely fun. I remember liking it a bunch as a kid. So
Oh yeah. Nah, so that's my number two. Now what's
heck yeah.
I guess you're at your number one, right?
Hmm.
What's your number
Now,
one?
which makes me wonder if this is your number one.
This might be where we line up actually.
Yep. Okay. Should we, on the count of three, say it at the same time?
I I don't know though, because you actually there's another one that might be your number one.
Oh shit.
There's like two other films that could easily be your number one, actually, in my opinion.
Okay.
So you just say it and I'll tell you if mine's the same.
Does it have anything to do with barbecue and
Yes, so it is the same. Hell yeah.
okay, so on the count of three. One, two, three. Texas
Texas Chainsaw
Chainsaw
Massacre Part 2.
Massacre Part Two. We did so good at that.
Why'd you go slow?
I
You're
don't
fine.
know. You weren't on the same speed with me at first, so then I was like, let's just make it more awkward.
You should have just said it. You were listening. The thing is, I just kept going, and you were listening for me. Don't you should the delay fucked you up.
It's like have you seen the video of the old lady trying to do the talk to text and then she gets stuck in an infinite loop where she's repeating back what she's reading but doesn't
She starts
understand.
screaming. Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah. Well sweet. I had a feeling we might have this one as our favorite. Um, but yeah, I mean, I I probably will get flack for this. I don't think it's even that controversial of a hot take or whatever, but I know the original is a more important horror film, but number two is my favorite of the franchise for sure.
Same.
Uh, it's more fun. It's what I want out of the film, and maybe if Texas Chainsaw was done later, you know, like because there's something about 70s horror, and I'm not dogging on 70s horror, but there's something about like a lot of times they were a little bit like more simplified or less advanced as far as like what they were doing with camera work or whatever. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's revolutionary what Texas Chainsaw did. I don't know, there's just something, maybe it just didn't have the budget or something. I don't know what it is. Even though it's a more serious film and it is terrifying, but I feel like that movie could be scarier. Uh, and with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, it's just 80s fun. It's like, and I love that friggin' Hooper did a completely different take on, his story, so, and not many directors do that.
Yeah.
Um, and it has arguably one of the best sidekicks in horror villaindom in this movie with Mr. Chop Top. So yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
No,
it's
fuck
just
yeah.
so good. It's such a good movie.
Lick my plate, you dog dick.
Hmm.
No, I fucking love Chop Top. I'm with you. This is my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, my favorite horror sequel of all time as well. That's why I said like my top three films are tops of other lists, with favorite
Mhm.
musicals, favorite David Lynch
Sure.
film, and favorite Toby Hooper film too. So it's like this is a top of multiple lists for me. And
Oh
what's
yeah.
crazy is I grew up with the remake. I hadn't seen any of the originals. Like I
Mm,
mentioned plenty of times on the show before. I grew up not really a horror fan. Well, I was a horror fan, but I was scared of it. So it was like I was like it was more the adrenaline part of that, which it
sure.
still is finding that adrenaline. But at that point, it was more like the interest of like the things that scare the shit out of me. And then eventually, I grew to love horror movies, and that's when I dove back to watching more classics. But I always
Hmm.
watched like what was coming out at the time because, like I said, I was interested in them, but they did scare the shit out of me. So
Sure.
I guess I wouldn't. I guess I would never go as far to say I was never into them. They just scared me. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it took a while for that shift to happen where like now it's hard for a movie to like actually scare me and stuff, but still happens, but it's just few and far between. So
That's interesting. When did the remake came out? That was like it was. I know it was
2003 or two, I
two.
think.
So I didn't see that first, but I remember specifically finally renting Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time ever because the new one was coming out and I wanted to see it, and it was like in like ninth grade or something like that. And I was like finally like watching some of the like, films I'd never seen. And yeah, kind of had like my introduction was weirdly similar to yours. Even though I did happen to watch the original before it, but it felt like, oh, I'm watching an old film,
Yeah.
and like, and my lens on horror was like, oh, like what's good is like, Wrong Turn and this new Texas Chainsaw or The
Yeah.
Ring,
And the
because that's just,
Saw. Yeah.
yeah, it's just what I knew of that time. So,
Oh yeah.
so that's interesting. Yeah.
None. And then of course, but over time, like I finally, I even saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning before seeing the original, just because,
Mm,
wasn't diving back, and like nobody in my household was like, you got to watch the original. I don't even know
mm,
if they ever, saw it growing up, just because they're not serious like horror fans and stuff. So, like you mentioned, I saw Little Shop of Horrors, at a young age because of
mm,
my mom being a musical fan, not a horror fan. So, um, no, it was so once I finally watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre a little later, I was like, "Oh, that was an awesome film," and I definitely see why people love it. But I might
mm,
I might still prefer, the remakes. And over time, that film has become one of those films that every time I watch it, I'm like, that might be my new favorite horror film of all
mm.
time. I love it. Like I've grown to really love the original film so much. Like I watch it a lot.
Sure.
I really have grown to love that film until I watch this film, and then I'm like, man, I love this film so much more. Like, and it's not like I don't immediately think, oh, I don't like that film anymore. I'm just like, man, this one might be my, it's not my favorite horror film of all time, but it's in my top five horror films of all time.
I'd be
Uh,
curious, does this movie do the same thing? Because I know we don't have the same opinions about Evil Dead, but does this movie do the same thing for you as far as like Evil Dead 2 versus the original?
Yeah, it does, but it also
Hmm.
I feel like Toby Hooper just did such a smart thing with like the knowledge of where horror was when he came out in
Hmm.
1986.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because like where horror was in 1974 makes sense for the first film, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
is it 74 or 73? 74, yeah. Always
Okay.
because it's Exorcist is 73, so that's where I always get a little
Yes.
bit yeah, 74 because it's August 18th, 1974 is when that happens, the film happens or whatever. But no, so pretty much 74. like horror at the time was very slow, raw.
Mhm.
Exploitation films were more of a thing. You did have like gore and stuff happening, but it was more like very indie. With like Blood Feast and I think Herschel Gordon Lewis doing stuff, and then like
Yeah.
Italian films. But like that
Well,
film was,
I feel like the story in 70s horror was stories that taught mean-spiritedness. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like more so than like sensationalizing gore and violence. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah.
No, and this one to come along with like having like an actual commentary and stuff like that, but it just like that one fits so well with what films were doing in the early 70s
Hmm.
that you watch that in a marathon of 70s films, it just flows so well. And
Hmm.
this one I feel like does the same thing. You go watch it along with a lot of other films on our list, especially like the TerrorVision or Friday the 13th Part 6. And immediately like it flows so well because it's got that camp
Hmm.
added to it, but it's still but somehow you can still watch this after part one and enjoy it as a sequel to the original. So I don't know, he
Sure.
accomplished something so special by being able to grow with the genre, especially considering that he did what Poltergeist in between the two, and that was such
Hmm.
a different film,
It's true.
that
Yeah.
was like doing what horror films were doing at that time too in the early 80s, kind of like Evil Dead was doing, the first Evil Dead was doing, where like the early 80s were starting to get a little less raw, but they were starting to get they were getting a little less mean, but they were getting us trying to be really like truly scary, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
like almost started to try to hit people at home, you know what I mean? Where I mean, and Texas Chainsaw does the same thing, but people travel to the home to get hurt, where like, which I guess you got like Last House on the Left, but in the
Yeah.
70s and stuff. But either way, I just no, I agree. I see. That's what I always throw out as well. Is it's very similar. It's like the Evil Dead 2 of the franchise,
Hmm.
and it's because of that. Like it does do the perfect like tone shift, but still keeps the spirit of that first one. Because even though the second film is like remaking the first one with Evil Dead, it's like remaking the
Hmm.
first one and then carrying on the
Sure.
story. Uh, it is still like does a great job of keeping that spirit from the first one while adding all the humor that it wanted to add for the franchise going forward. And I believe Texas Chainsaw did the same thing, where it like did a great job of keeping the spirit of those original characters and what the story was, but
Hmm.
also adding in that humor and camp that they could carry on in the future films, which didn't work out as great. But you had like Leatherface, all those other films did try to stay with the camp and stuff going forward. You know what I mean? It wasn't until
Hmm.
the remakes that they returned to the grimy, more like
Yeah.
straightforward stuff. So
And it's crazy about this one is like Leatherface doesn't steal the show in this movie at all. You know,
yeah.
like if you could almost argue that he's like more in the background. Um, I mean, yeah, Chop Top, Stretch, friggin' Dennis Hopper's character, like everything about this movie is like they're all such compelling characters in this movie.
Yeah.
And another chainsaw duel, back-to-back episodes discussion, Mandy and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Yeah, this movie's such a blast. And I want uh an actual theme park that's designed after the theme park that
Yeah.
they're all like hiding out in. I want to go explore that set so bad. It's so cool.
Texas Battlegrounds or some shit like that. They
Yeah,
called it.
whatever
But
that was.
yeah,
It is the most rad thing ever. Um,
no, fucking. And then of course you got Caroline Williams' Stretch. That like
mm,
her part's awesome. Lefty, Dennis Hopper.
yep.
Dennis Hopper's on my list twice. Fucking
Hmm.
coked out of his mind in both films, just absolutely killing it, dude. But I love that connection too. Like a lot of people like because it's brushed over so quickly. The fact that he's Franklin and uh, Sally's uncle is like
Mm,
such a cool way to like tie it back. You know what I mean? And it makes sense that he's
sure.
so like fucked up over it and stuff. So
Oh yeah. And then in this one, I love that the barbecue or the chili cook-off thing in this one is really good too. I
yeah.
don't know. I just love, yeah, this one. It's great. Go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Which for those that don't know, during the chili cook-off, there's a cameo from the truck driver from the first film. The guy that
Oh,
played the truck driver at the very end of the first
that
film.
picks up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like just in the back of, he's like one of the judges at the chili cook-off. And
Oh, that's so good.
actually, because I got to do that panel at last year's Tidewater, not this
Mhm.
past year, but the year before, I got to do the panel at Tidewater Horror Con with like three of the original members from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original movie, and he was one of them. So I got to ask him about the thing, and he said it was just he just happened to be around, so Toby Hooper brought him back. But no, no, I thought that was awesome. I love this film, and I want to. There's so much more I want to say about it, but I want to hold this one for like an actual full episode one day,
Yeah, I think it's a good
because I
idea.
could just point out scenes and other shit. But no, I absolutely love this film. But we can jump into our honorable mentions because we got a lot. To kick off honorable mentions, I'll say the two films I thought might be on your list, and then if you want to carry on with your honorable mentions, and then I'll finish mine off.
Sure.
Well, I'm gonna say three because I'm gonna say the one that was almost on my list, and then the two that I thought might be your number one in case Texas Chainsaw wasn't. But I figured Texas Chainsaw 2 might be because
Mhm.
you made the shirts and we talk about it. I know we both love it.
Sure.
But there's just some other films that I know people look at as Stone Cold classics of the year. So the one that did make my list that I really was struggling with taking off was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Mm,
Just because that's my type of film. I know that one's
sure.
really mean, but it's like mean when it needs to be. I like films that are mean when it makes sense. Like this is telling a story that's real and it is a mean, dirty story and it needs it. So it needs a
Hmm.
mean, dirty movie. And no, I love it. Michael Rooker as Henry is fucking amazing. So and then the two that I thought that you might put at your number one was David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Mm,
Uh love that film. It's just not a top five. You know what I mean? It
sure.
probably would be in the top 10, of course, of the year, but um super great film, just not top five. And then the other one was Aliens. The only reason
Mm,
Aliens wasn't in my top five is because, again, I came so late to that franchise. I didn't even start watching the franchise until like 2018. And the reason I remember is because I literally won a box set while I was on my honeymoon. I
mm,
got like an email saying I won a box set of the Alien movies, and I had never seen any of them until that point. So, like, when
mhm.
the box set came, I watched the first two, and those are still the only two I've seen. So, uh, I really enjoy them. I love them. I respect the shit out of them, but it's just not enough to be a top five because of that. But
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many.
yeah,
Yeah, The Fly, that was a hard one to knock out, but like at the end of the day, um, it's not my favorite Cronenberg film, even though I feel like it's the one that probably people have seen the most, you know?
yeah,
Um, that was just a movie that like as a kid, it was always on TV and I just thought it was weird and gross. And this was before I, was gonna go down a rabbit hole of Cronenberg films. So like when I finally was ready to check out his canon of work, then I think I started with Shivers. And I was like, now this is sick. And then by the time I rewatched The Fly, I was just like, I mean, sure, Jeff Goldblum's amazing. But I don't know. It just seems so tame compared to like all of his other movies that, I would like better.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Fly, I mean, it's still incredible film. Another honorable mention, gosh, Maximum Overdrive.
yeah, dude.
I mean, that movie is terrible, but it is so fun. That was kind of hard. I don't know. I didn't have to like think about putting it on my list, but I was just like, this movie rules.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's on my honorable mentions list, especially because mostly just because of the line, "Honey, this ATM just called me an asshole."
yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember. That's one I want to show Penelope, because she's like, that sounds hilarious, and I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah. I was like, I need to remember if there's anything that you couldn't see. Um,
I don't think so. We actually went and saw it in theaters last Father's, not I think it was actually I think it was this past Father's Day. We
oh,
went and
nice.
saw a double feature of that and Creep Show in the theaters, and I don't remember it having anything that was really like that was the last time I watched it, all the way through,
Hmm.
and I don't remember it having anything that was like bad at all. Like there's a
Hmm.
romance story in there, and I think there's like some heavy kissing, but I don't think they
Yeah, I
like
think you're
do
right.
anything else. But
Let's see what else. There's some really good like kind of creaturey type films like Critters.
yo,
But I saw that later in life. Um, Rawhead Rex. Have you ever seen that movie?
no, I've heard
Dude, watch
that's one
that
I've
movie's
known
so
about for
good.
yeah, that's one that I've known about for a long time and just never watched it.
Yeah.
I used to think it was about a guy with a I used to think it was about a killer dick for some reason, but then like every time I heard the name, I was like, oh, that's that killer dick movie. And then
I mean, checks. No, that movie's so good. It seemed that movie like feels like a like Steven Konstansky type film.
yeah,
Like you'll have a blast with that. I mean, Witchboard is a great film. But one that is on my honorable mention is The Wraith, even though it's not really that horror related, in my opinion. But that movie was one of those films I'm like, how is nobody talking about this movie? That's a sneaky, sneaky good Charlie Sheen film.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's
uh,
one that I didn't know about until one day I was literally on Tubi and just decided to watch it. It was really good. I
yeah,
liked it. Yeah.
same. Yeah, it's awesome. And and maybe arguably one of the best films that is on the list, but in my opinion, it doesn't count as a horror film, is Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't
Which,
put that. Yeah, because I didn't think it's a horror film. It's got some horror aspects to it with the
yeah,
creatures and shit, but yeah, it's more of like an action adventure film.
I agree. Yeah, I've seen it like put in the like horror list before. I'm like, this isn't horror. What are you talking about? But I
Yeah.
guess yeah, because it has some creatures. But yeah, that movie's so good. But yeah, the 86 was a solid year. And that's I haven't even looked at like what else came out in 86 as far as like action films, dramas, comedies, they're like that sounds crazy. Can you imagine everything that came out that year if that was like a today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well, I got
that.
three more too that three more that you didn't mention that I
Oh
really
yeah.
love. House, which
Oh
we
yeah,
talked
that's
about it
right.
before. We talked about it before the show. House would have
Mhm.
been in my top five. However, it was technically released in December of 1985 in
Mhm.
a limited release, and then got the wide release in 1986, like February or something like early 86. I didn't include it because most people, when they talk about it, put it to 85, and it's in a lot of 85 lists. But I love that film, House, directed by Steve Miner and starring William Catt. The other two was Demons. The other two
Oh
were
yeah.
Demons 2. I love that film. It's super fun. That's another one I got to see in theaters at the Carolina Theater in Durham as well.
Oh
Last
yeah.
time they did Splatter Flicks. Fucking blast of a film. And then last but not least, I got to shout this one out, man. We're a music podcast sometimes too. Trick or Treat with Sammy Kerr
Mm,
came out in 1986. And again, this is a film that
mm.
if I got to see it more often, it might have been able to be in my top five, but I've only watched it all the way through one time. But it's a blast of a film, especially when you want to watch like a heavy metal horror film,
Mm.
like 80s heavy metal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I still have never seen that one. It's they did it on Joe Bob, right? And I'd like
I think
missed that
so.
night that they
I watched
played
it
it.
before. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I didn't see it on Joe Bob, but I watched it when I started hearing about it just because I was like, I gotta watch. It's got fucking Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne in it, so
Yeah. Yeah, there's some crazy films that came out in 86. You had Thrashin' and Rad. So you
fuck
got
yeah,
skateboards and BMX. We're just getting so X Games in 86. Stand By Me came out in 86.
dude.
Yeah,
Rest in peace, Rob Reiner
yeah, what an incredible year.
and River Phoenix.
Let's see what else. There's gotta be more.
Oh yeah, there's definitely 1986 had to be a slapping year,
Cobra. Cobra came
dude.
out.
Cosmatos, we're back to
Yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're we're linking all of our episodes, dude.
I know. Oh, dude, that's a good one too. What is it? Freaking Black Moon Rising. That's a cool oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? Tommy Lee Jones film.
Oh yeah,
Cool action movie.
dude. One of my favorite films of all time came out in 1986. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's a great movie.
I love
Uh
that movie.
a real cute film. Milo and Otis.
Yeah, don't go behind the scenes. It won't be so
No,
cute
no,
no
no,
more,
no.
dude. A
Yeah.
bunch of dead cats.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We don't
Oh,
condone that part of that movie.
so literally, look at this. I just found an article that was released February of 2025 that says 32 movies that prove 1986 is the best year in movie history.
Oh, cool.
And I'm gonna just run through these movies real quick and then we'll wrap
Sure.
up for the night. But Platoon,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield,
Mm.
and I think a young RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., if I'm not mistaken. I think he's in Back to School.
Oh, really? Mm.
Aliens, of course,
Yeah.
Crocodile Dundee. Shout out Blue Velvet, dude. It's on the list. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Labyrinth,
Damn. Yeah.
Stand By Me, The Mission, it's a Robert De Niro film. Top Gun. Not a, I'm not a Tom Cruise fan, but I can respect Top Gun.
It's
Uh,
fine.
Big Trouble in Little China. Hoosiers. Fucking Sid
Mm.
and Nancy, another one that leads into the music side of things. Where
I need to see that movie so bad.
Same. I've never actually seen it either.
Mm,
Gary Oldman plays Sid
mhm.
Vicious. Highlander, dude. There can only be one, dude. The Golden Child, Little Shop of Horrors, The
Mm.
Fly, Short Circuit, dude. Johnny Five is
Oh
alive.
yeah, your mother's a snowblower.
Dude, another good one. Pretty in Pink. I love me a good John Hughes
So
film.
Johnny Five came out and Chopping Mall.
I guess so, yeah.
That's kind of crazy, actually.
The Name of the Rose, which I've never heard of. Children of a Lesser God, I've heard of but never seen.
Mm.
Manhunter.
That's a sick movie too.
Yeah. That would have been a good one. Eventually I want to cover those. Another Tom Cruise classic, The Color of Money. Uh Iron Eagle, Three Amigos, dude. A Room with a View, Hannah and Her Sisters, Heartbreak Ridge, Ruthless People, 9.5 Weeks, One Crazy Summer, Something Wild, and that's it. That was some good ass. That's a good list, man. There's
Dude,
some
what are we
definitely.
doing, man? What's wrong with the movie industry? Why can't we get that stacked of a film slate for an entire year?
Hey, I'd argue last year was solid. You had One Battle, you had Sinners, you had
Sure.
I don't know. I think movies have been better than ever post pandemic, just because I feel like
It's
a lot of
true.
people had time to reset and like it kind of reshifted the industry. I think the only issue with the industry right now is the way that California is too expensive to film in, but that's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing. But no, I think that we're getting some really great cinema over the past couple of years. I think the only problem is we're getting flooded with it too, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
just very hard to keep up with everything. So
That's true. I really don't even consider the amount of shit that just is like movies made for the streaming services. You know what I mean?
you know,
Whereas like I'm just purely thinking about like what I see at the movie theater. But yeah.
and it almost seems at the end of the year, whenever I finally get to watch all the non-horror films that I like, when I try to pile them in,
Mm.
it's like almost every one I watch, I'm like, this might be a new favorite film. This might be a new favorite
Yeah.
film. Like right now, when we get off of here, I might go watch that Brendan Fraser film, Rental Family, because it just came out
Oh,
on.
I've heard it's good. Yeah.
I want to see that really bad. I really want to see No Other Choice, the new Bong Joon-ho movie. So
Hmm.
there's just a bunch of stuff I want to, or Park Chan-wook. That's Park Chan-wook. That's right. We had that conversation before, but
Yeah.
no. So I'm just there's so much out there that I want to see. I still haven't seen One Battle, so and that's just what I
Mm.
haven't seen. You know what I mean? So no, I'm excited for where cinema's at. But I do agree. Like looking back, like there's so many films that I'm mentioning, but it's like we'll see where in 20 years if we're still talking
Yeah,
about them.
that's true.
So
That's
where
a fair
like
point.
the list I just said, there's so many films. Like I watch Ferris Bueller on the regular, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but and like Top Gun Maverick was a sequel that just came out in the last few years and was one of the biggest films of the last 5 years
Mhm.
as well. So, but no, yeah, it was fun to dive into a year like that and try to like lock in a list, because you have the
Mhm.
nostalgia factor to worry about. There's no sometimes recency bias if you actually
Mhm.
take the time to watch movies you hadn't seen. There were so many that I had seen. I was like, I don't need to even try to watch any of these I hadn't really. So.
Sure. Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
but no, it was real fun making a list like this. We might have to do more of these in the future. But I know our next episode, not the next episode being released, there'll probably be one in between this and that. But we're gonna start diving into the Phantasm films. So
Yeah. No, I'm excited for that. That's a and that's it, it feels like perfect timing because like probably the past 2 or 3 years I've been like, I need to do another deep dive on all of these. So I'm really looking forward to it.
yeah, now we'll go through those five films and then we'll move on to going back to just back and forth picking. But that works. That way we can each enjoy the franchise and have a
Mhm.
reason to do so, like with the rewatches and stuff, without having to actually binge them. Because if we're doing them like one every other week, because of the way we record our episodes, or even one every week, it still won't. We won't have to like binge five
Mhm.
movies in a day and be like, I'm
Sh-
phantasm the fuck out.
Yeah.
Fucking, if I ever see another like start having PTSD at Christmas when the putting ornaments up. We get back on the next episode and there's just no more of my phantasm ball up there. I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore, dude.
I'm over it. Hell yeah.
But, well, that'd be fun. I appreciate you for joining me, man. Anybody listening, make sure you comment. Let us know what your favorite films of the year are. Let us know how wrong we are for our lists. No, I'm just kidding. Just let us know what your favorite films of 1986 are, horror or non-horror. Leave a like, subscribe, or rating whatever's clever for wherever you're
Mm.
listening or watching. And thank you again for joining me, Stephen, man, from the Black.
Yeah, man. Always.
Hell yeah.